Hello XK8 enthusiasts, hello and welcome to another Modurol video about our manual transmission swap of our Jaguar XK8. This is MT24, and in this video I've got an index of things to talk about here. First of all, talk about the MOT and how we got on, then the exhaust noise and the selection, and having lived with it now for a couple of weeks, what we think about our particular selection. A little bit of a discussion about pedal boxes, then the Tremec gearbox, and inevitably the Tremec versus a ZF gearbox selection debate. First thing then to talk about is how did we get on the MOT? Well, as you know, we had problems previously. The car was undrivable because of a knock on the drivetrain, which we solved in the last video. So we got it down to the MOT station and it passed. No surprise, really, out of the amount of time and effort we put into it. Just a schoolboy error with that transmission. The exhaust was too close to the U-joint on the half shafts at the rear. Anyway, one thing that was interesting with the MOT is it passed everything with flying colours except the Lambda reading. Now, the Lambda, Andrew explained to me, the MOT tester, it did actually pass, but only at the lowest reading. It's the amount of oxygen that's allowed in the exhaust fumes, and the pass rate is 1.03. I'm not quite sure what that is, but it's 0.97 to 1.03, and it was running about 1.06, and I couldn't understand because it's practically got a new exhaust on it. But what Andrew explained to me, it's probably the gaps in the joints, and with stainless steel systems it's harder to get a completely airtight joint unless you use exhaust gum or some sealer. And obviously I didn't really want to do that because I wanted to take the exhaust on and off and try other combinations. So I didn't really want to put anything permanent, but it didn't help me pass the Lambda part of the exhaust emissions. Everything else, the CO2, the hydrocarbons, it flew through all those. I mean, really no problem at all, except for the Lambda. So if you're messing around with exhaust just before your MOT, make sure all the joints are sealed. Okay, a quick discussion about the exhaust noise, or the rumble I've released. At the moment there was some debate which combination I was going to go for, which bit of the silencer I was going to delete. And I decided to retain the front silencer and the back boxes and just test the over-axle pipes being straight through. And initially my impression was it was really very quiet, didn't release much rumble, but when I attached the microphone to the tail trim, the results was magnified. It did sound really, really meaty. Unfortunately, it's not representative of when you're actually outside with the car at a reasonable distance. So I think what I'm going to have to do, and it's been suggested by various people who commented, is to test and compare all of the combinations as much as possible. And I think we're going to have to do that. Keep an eye on the channel. In between waiting for things to happen on the conversion, I might just do that. Moving on to pedal boxes, we're really in a good position now where we can start offering these pedal boxes, where we convert your standard pedal box to one with a clutch pedal. So we're just discussing requirements with a couple of customers, and we're getting very close to a product which we're happy with, and then we can start offering it properly. Anyway, we'll keep you updated with that very, very shortly. Okay then, so let's talk a little bit about the gearbox. So this is the gearbox I've got for my transmission swap. It's a Tremec T56 Magnum XL, as used on the Aston Martin Vanquish from 2001 to 2007. I mean, it was a added extra in Aston Martin, so there aren't many of these gearboxes. So the next part of this particular transmission swap project is adapting this into the car and actually getting it to work with Glenn's NCM. And that's where I want to talk about this, which is the gear position sensor, something that's not unique to gearboxes now, but was pretty modern back in the 2000s. So underneath this plate, I'll show you a close-up of in here, is the gear selector sensor mechanism using these old, there's a pair of old sensors with these, what are basically, I saw somebody called them coat hangers, bent coat hangers, and it does look quite basic. Anyway, it's quite old school, and modern gearboxes, including ZF, use a magnetic version, and that's what Glenn has done on his gearbox, the S356. So the S653, and he's using this Land Rover sensor, the TXM5040. So the next part of our project is getting this sensor to adapt and sense the gear positions on this Tremec gearbox, which in theory Aston Martin already made a version of this for the Tremec gearbox, but it's unavailable, and even if you can find one, the kit is £1,000. So I think it's worthwhile me making this work for myself and anybody else with an Aston Martin who needs to know their gear position, because apparently these coat hanger switches are really unreliable, and they got upgraded to this magnetic sensor. Anyway, we're going to get more and more into this detail shortly. So I'm going to have to sit down for this one, because this Tremec ZF debate is something that I keep going back to all the time, every time I hit a problem. So when I started out the project, I was advised not to do the Tremec, and the ZF was easier, and I'm inclined to agree. So I'm thinking to myself, I got this gearbox, got started on a project, and every time I hit a little bump, I'm thinking, oh, I should just give up and move to the ZF one. But one thing in the back of my mind is that the biggest market for this car is realistically the US, and in the US they didn't export any of the S-type diesels. Therefore the gearboxes, albeit they're in low volume, relatively low volume anyway, none of them are available in the US. So anybody wanting to do this conversion in the US, the biggest market, as I say, has got to try and get one imported from Europe, which isn't impossible. But one thing that keeps me going then is that for people to do this mod in the long term, chances are they're going to end up using a version of the T56 gearbox. So the stuff I'm doing is relevant to them in the long term. Because cost-wise, it's definitely more expensive. It seems to be. I'm going to do a video at the end once we finish the conversion, comparing my costs to Glenn's, and talk about the difficulties. The main difference at the moment is the cost of the gearbox is obviously more, because this was associated with Advantage, and Tremecs tend to be expensive gearboxes. The other thing is this obviously needs a bespoke diff. I've got my diff over there. from Simply Performance. Sorry about that, lads. I mean, the guys gave me a discount based on the fact that I would promote the fact that I'm using their diff. But it's been some time, and I haven't really got. If you follow the blog of this conversion, you can understand why. But it's still sat there. So the lads from Simple Performance, we are getting very close to fitting it. So basically, with the Tremec, you need to have that diff. That diff is a couple of £1,000, but the balance was with the ZF box. You needed to have modified cats, which we don't have to have with the Tremec, and those are a couple of grand. So on a par, it was balanced. Plus, in my diff, it's limited slip, so it's like boom. I suppose what really threw me at this point of the project was the need to have this gear position sensor Glenn spoke about for his MCM to work. And my initial thought was I was going to have to fit the Aston Martin one. Luckily, I say luckily, the Aston Martin one is no longer available, which meant I couldn't spend £1,000, and I have to go and probably use this Jaguar Land Rover one. But again, that could be actually quite positive, because if I can get that working, that could be useful for other owners of Aston Martin Vanquishes and people doing the transmission swap with the Tremec. It started thinking, oh, well, if I just have a new ECU, that's going to be 4,000. It's only 3,000 more. And I'm thinking, this is just crazy amounts of money we're talking about. So luckily, I think I can make this the cheaper version work and keep the costs in check. But really, I'd say every time I come across a problem, it seems to be big money, and it questions whether I should actually be doing the ZF. I think I probably should, but hey, we're committed now, and as I say, long term, this might be more productive for the US market. Glenn's actually worked out, he's completed his conversion, he's worked out a bit of a shopping list of what you need and how much stuff costs for basically his conversion, which was based on the ZF, the S653 gearbox. If you want to see a copy of this shopping list that Glenn's put together, I've put a copy on our website www.modurol.co.uk. I'll put a link in the comments as well. Obviously, if you want an MCM, please contact Glenn. I'll give his if you request in the comments, I'll give you his contact details. And obviously, if you want a pedal box, please contact us and we'll see if we can help you out. Okay, quite a lot covered in that video today. Not in a great deal of detail, but it shows you where we are at the moment and what we're moving to next. Anyway, if you're interested in this manual transmission swap, please take a look at our other videos on our channel, and please like, comment, share and subscribe for more Modurol videos. Thank you. Bye-bye.